Many think of the world as divided between the winners and the losers, the insiders and the outsiders. Even if we don't mean to, we sort people, we categorize them, and we judge them. At our most generous, we say they've made bad decisions. They've had bad luck. And at our most critical, we say they are undeserving or immoral. It's embarrassing how often we do this by default, unconsciously. I was brought up with these attitudes, and they grew without me intending it. We knew they were the really evil people, but we even thought smokers or people who were overweight or in a wheelchair or with certain accents or patterns of speech, we might consign to a category that isn't us. We want to be on the safe side. We want to be what they used to call righteous. When I describe this psychological dynamic, it sounds quite horrible. But I believe that it really originates in our deepest desire, in our ultimate goal. We want to be good. We want to be well. We want to live. We think we know what we can do to be good, to be well, and to live. We can eat healthy food and study and do well in school and work hard. We can go to church. We can read the Bible. We can even have our children baptized. The world in the Gospel of Matthew was like this too. People wanted to love God and love their neighbor, to follow God and to be God's faithful people. And to do this, they drew distinctions and made labels and drew maps, said what people needed to do, were allowed to do, and prohibited from doing. They made judgments in their minds that they thought were God's, and sometimes they even took divine judgment into their own hands. But in them, like us, flowing deep underneath, was their dearest desire. They wanted to be good, to be well, and to live. When I was a kid, I imagined Matthew's tax booth as a toll booth, like the one we would drive up to in our station wagon to pay $1 to go over the Tappan Zee Bridge. I still really can't picture what this tax booth looks like, but I know now that it's his place of work, where Matthew took money from his own neighbors to enrich their enemies. Matthew the tax collector was like a collaborator in the Vichy regime, or a worker crossing a picket line. Or maybe he was like the person who insists on squeegeeing your window at the intersection of I-35 and 183. So Jesus, the teacher of the law, picks this most unpromising candidate and calls him into ministry. It's as simple as this: follow me. And he got up and followed him. Jesus entrusts the gospel to Matthew, the tax collector. Jesus was notorious for the company he kept. He spent time eating and drinking with the ones the respectable people looked down on, those known in biblical language as the tax collectors and sinners, or the tax collectors and prostitutes. He went to their parties. Today, he tells the Pharisees why. Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. I came not to call righteous, but sinners. Go, learn what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. Jesus is speaking to all of us who discriminate between people and sort them into boxes, who think there's a big difference between me and the people in the tents by the underpass. Jesus is speaking right into our need to be good, to be well, to live. Jesus asks us to reconsider our categories, to reflect on our judgment. He asks, what if you thought of yourself not as well, but as sick, not as righteous, but as a sinner? What if you acknowledged not your sufficiency, but your need, not your outward appearance, but your interior longing? What if the way to live and be well wasn't to do all the right things, but to tap into this deep longing for God? The deep longing that connects you with people and does not divide and distinguish you. Jesus calls us to gentleness and mercy. Jesus calls us into community with one another, into neighborhoods we've never been to before, to learn what it means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. When he eats with tax collectors and sinners, Jesus reflects the character of God. God who doesn't observe the distinctions we do, God who doesn't rule out the people we do, doesn't sort people, doesn't arrange people into hierarchies. God acts mercifully to us, and God asks us to show mercy to others. Imagine our church, how it looks to God, not as a group of the together and the fixed, but a gathering of the broken. In this fragile community, our God creates, makes well, and gives life. No questions asked, no examination, no requirements, no papers, no credentials required. All of us human beings who need a doctor. A beloved child, a lonely woman sick for years, and the doctor lays hands on them. He makes them well and gives them life. The children we baptize today, and all of us who have been baptized, are baptized into this paradox, baptized into this fellowship of the broken and the healing, the sick and the recovering. Church is the place we learn mercy, not by being perfect, but by being real. God calls each of us, unqualified human beings, to turn around, to follow Jesus, from burnt offerings and sacrifice to mercy. In mercy, we know freedom from all that sorting and judging that takes its toll and keeps us captive. In mercy, we know healing and life abundant. Be well and live. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.